Hello and welcome to a brand new season of Hooks and Hackles. Rob Solo, John Bonnell here. Welcome back, Rob.
Thanks.
How was your fall off?
Well, it was good. Pretty busy working, but good to be back on the show.
Yeah, we're back. We've got 16 brand new flies for you and just a whole season's worth of great fly tying activity for everybody. I guess the way to start off, Rob, is let's tell everybody about what we'll be doing in the upcoming shows.
We're going to go through a lot of basic flies like salmon, trout, dry flies, and wet flies.
Great. So last year we concentrated only on salmon flies. This year we'll also get into a bit of fly fishing for trout flies as well.
Sure.
Take us right up to the start of the trouting season there in early May.
Yep.
Great. So, well, I'll take everybody through, and you can tell us about each one of these wonderful flies that Rob will be tying, and I will be assisting him in my own special way. So, what's this first one, Rob?
This one's the orange riffle fly. Mm-hmm. It's my own pattern. I devised it in 1978, I believe it was, and to date, that's after taking a lot of fish for me. It's a good fly in various sizes, better late in the season, I find, because it's a little bit darker, you know?
Yeah.
It was based on two flies, the Thunder and Lightning and the Lady Joan, which was one of Lee Wolf's flies, but it's a really good pattern, I find it really.
The orange and the black, and then looks Thunder and Lightning style. That seems to me, based on what happened with us in August on the Hummers, it would be a good lower Hummer fly.
It was one of the top flies up there this year, and the biggest one I got on it this year was about 23 pounds.
Off of that fly?
Yeah.
Great, okay. So that's the first one we'll be tying on this show. And then in next week's show, we'll be moving on to, this is the blue charm, which I guess everybody's familiar with. And if you remember from last season's programs, we tied a blue charm, but this one has a different variation on it. It's
a hair wing version of the blue charm, the English blue charm. Now, that blue charm had, the feather wing had a wing of bronze mallard with teal over and a golden pheasant crest over. My version uses dark brown squirrel, dyed dark brown squirrel, gray squirrel over that, and again the crest. So it keeps pretty well the coloration of the classic fly. Okay. So and then in week 3, we'll be moving on to this one here. What's this one? It's called the Orange Puppy. That was devised by Reg Nichols, who was one of the top fishermen up on the Humber River system. It's been successful all over Newfoundland and Labrador and on the mainland. It's an excellent pattern. Now this is a little different looking, just from right here, up here at the head with the chenille. Yeah. That's new. Now we haven't encountered anything like that in the flies we've tied up. This one. Yes, we have with the Humber Orange. Okay. Now this one, if anybody remembers from our show last season, we were on the lower Humber. There was a buddy of yours who was fishing there, and that's what he was using at the time, just off the side, and he hooked into a 8 or 9 pound fish that you felt was bigger than mine, but I don't think so. Anyways, in week 4, we'll be moving on to this one. That's called a Crystal Bear. It's a black bear green butt with the addition of green crystal flash, like lime green crystal flash in the wing, and it was devised by David Clark over in Havre-Boucher in Nova Scotia. Dave is one of the top fly fishermen in that area, and I saw him work his magic out on the Southwest River about 4 years ago when I took him down to Southwest, and he got a couple of nice fish out of it. It's nice. You can see the hint of purple on that almost in the color up. Yeah. It's nice. Beautiful fly. Okay, and then we move on to this one. Now this one almost reminds me of sort of a green casaboom or something, or... Okay, that one there is called the Fluorescent Green Rat, and that's the one I placed second place in the world back in '89 at the World Fly Tying Championships. I also got ASF Fly Tyer of the Year in '91 for that fly. Now, I devised that back in, I'd say the late 70s. Mm-hmm. But it was a toned-down version of that particular fly. It was very, very simple, but for competition, I devised it, or patterned it after rat flies, but I kept the overall coloration. It's been a very successful fly, and I've got letters from Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick saying how good they've been doing with that fly up there catching fish. What time of the season is this most effective with all this green in it? And have you? It's a good fly in bright weather. It doesn't matter, what time of the year. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, now we're moving into the. This one here, which is, I guess, the streamer variety? It's a Mickey Finn variation. I've got a red crystal flash in the wing instead of red bucktail, which the original fly called for. But we've found a lot of the flies that we're using crystal flash and are taking fish pretty quickly. Now, that's a good fly for all different species of fish. it was originally devised for trout fishing, but salmon fishing is excellent on opening day in high water, late in the year in high water. It's an excellent fly.
That's interesting too. You've got right up at the head of the hook there. That I guess it's an eye type of a formation there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, and then the next one
is my own pattern, and it's my own particular style of fly. It's called a hair hackle gold casting boom. Now, what I do instead of like a casting boom would usually have yellow hackle collared in front of the wing. I used dyed yellow deer hair, one bunch on top and one bunch on bottom, and it spins out just like a yellow collar hackle. But the beauty of that fly is you don't have to use a hitch. If you cast that out, it'll make a riffle right on top of the water. And that's after taking fish, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Russia. It's been really, really effective.
Now, what makes you want to take an established pattern and then make variations on it? Is it
okay, that is a variation of the silver casting boom. And that was the one, I believe, that Ken Kendall came up with, the silver casting boom. So it was an effective fly. It was catching a lot of fish. And so I always changed a little something in an effective pattern, and this one here worked out really well.
Okay, now this next one is?
A muddler minnow, and it's a very well-known fly. It's been on the go for about about 40 years. It's taken some awful big trout, salmon. Another good fly for a different species.
Yeah. Now, I've used the muddler minnow before, primarily for trout fishing, but now this one looks a little different than, say, the ones that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, they were probably tied over in India somewhere. A few hairs short.
Yeah, no, but there's this, I guess this wing pattern here is, I haven't encountered anyway, but that's just different varieties, I guess.
In this particular fly right here now, I got peacock wing. It calls for turkey, mottled turkey, but it's quite similar.
So you're insulting the flies that I buy, is that what you're saying? It was before I met you, okay?
Yeah,
so,
right.
Okay, next one up is?
It's a trout nymph. It's called a casual dress, and it's not what you call a exact imitation of a nymph, but it's a fuzzy, and trout seem to like it really well. Now that's also weighted, so you wouldn't be able to use that for salmon.
No.
You're not allowed to use a weighted fly for salmon, but it's in a really good fly for trout. Nymphs are the underwater aquatic stage of mayflies, stoneflies, caddis flies, and whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah. There's lots of times I know when I'm out trout fishing that using flies and you're trying everything, somebody comes along with the nymph and bang, 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 and you're sort of, if you don't have one on you, you're sort of helpless for the day because they're just not taking anything else.
The next fly is a woolly bugger, and it is a pattern that is it's like the woolly worm. But instead of just a red tail, it's got marabou in the tail, and it's very soft, and it flows and pulses in the water. Now that fly can imitate bait fish, nymphs, whatever.
Is it primarily a dry fly?
No, it's a wet fly. It's fished on the bottom, like a nymph, or a streamer. You can fish it with a twitch and whatever.
Okay. So you would not fish it at all dry?
No, not that particular fly. Not that particular fly.
Okay. All right, and then the next one. Now this looks like a familiar pattern.
It's the Royal Wolf. And again, that was a pattern devised by Lee Wolf, and it's one of the top.
Royal Coachman with that.
A hair tail.
Hair tail.
Yeah. It's very effective all over the world on different species, mostly trout and salmon.
Well, the Royal Coachman has always been a very well-established trout fly, anyways, and so that's a nice variation there. And the next up we have.
Now that's my pattern of a crystal bug. Danny Bird devised a bunch of patterns called crystal bugs, and that was back, I guess about 6-8 years ago. And Danny's really done well with those flies. Now, I've found in the past couple of years that now a lot of guys around here are using orange hackle with orange crystal flash tail. I used the yellow with a red head, and I really found it very effective. I've got fish out in Harry's, Southwest.
Okay.
It's an exciting new pattern.
This one is really interesting with the wing pattern that goes right down the body.
Yep, it's called a shellback bug. It's my own pattern. It's not my own pattern. It's a pattern after the Cooper bug. And the Cooper bug had a peacock curl body. But so what I did was I used a deer hair body, spun deer hair and clipped, and deer hair pulled over the back and split and divided like a wolf. And I've caught fish out to Southwest, Lomond, Lower Humber, all over. It's an excellent pattern.
And with a fly like this, I guess, would presentation be one of the more bigger concerns with that? You don't want it going in the water, sort of side on or
No,
anything.
it'll drop just naturally.
Yeah.
It'll float really well. Good fly late in the season.
And this one here, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to get a hold of it because it's on a very small hook, but this is
A wolf skater. It's Lee Wolf's design. Now, the skater fly is a recognized type of fly, and usually it was done with large spade hackles. That's the side hackles off rooster capes. And Lee used hair instead of hackle on the fore portion of it, and found it skated and just danced around in the water and whatever. And a lot of times that's the only type of fly you'll rise a fish on. They might not take it, but you'll get a rise out of them. So that'll soften them up, you know.
what size hook is that?
That one there is about a number 16, a little bit long shank, I guess.
Okay, now next up.
Another one of Lee's patterns. It's called the loop hackle moth. And that's another good fly to fish over fish that have seen a lot of different flies, you know, and in low water.
Well, if they've seen a lot of flies, they probably haven't seen one that looks quite like this before.
No. I've taken fish down the Lomond River. You know, it was a shame. The show we did last year, I didn't have one in my kit. And when I got thinking about the show later on, I said, you know, that would have been a pattern to really try down the Camel's Pool.
Yeah.
But you sort of ruined it when you went and caught that fish and had to tear around, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for catching that
You
fish.
better be.
But now, this fly here? I mean, is this based on an earlier pattern and just modified, or is this sort of dreamed right up?
Because it's dreamed right up.
Yeah, it is a very interesting pattern that I don't think probably very many people would be that familiar with.
Yeah. Now, generally on that size hook, that's a number 4. I would put another set of wings starting in just behind the chenille right here, and just bring it forward to it. Just give it extra support, right?
Yeah. Now, how long can you fish that fly before the wing pattern starts to get a little?
No, if you got to use the right type of glues and whatever. Now, it's a little bit more fragile than most flies, but it'll still keep taking fish, you know.
Now, this one here.
And our last pattern, our last fly will be a shrew or a mouse.
Yeah, which probably anybody who's fished around the odd bog or anything around Newfoundland has probably encountered the real thing, but...
Yeah. Now, that's just a simple fly to tie. You know, all you need is a bit of rubber band or the proper thing, it would be live rubber skirt material.
For the tail.
And just a deer hair clip and a bit of blackhead cement, and you're in business. And it's very easy to do. I mean, I can put eyes on it, like those doll's eyes that you get at hobby shops and whatever, but you don't need to do that.
No.
The shape is the most important thing, and a tail.
What kind of conditions would you reach into your tackle box and whip this baby out for?
That's good on big trout.
Yeah?
Yeah. So if you know where there are some big trout moving around, and it's usually better later on in the evening or early in the morning.
Yeah. Sometimes, too, I find with trout fishing, if the water in the river is a little high, something like that might work a little better because they're perhaps used to seeing the odd shrew or that in the river if the water levels are up high, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, those are the 16 flies that we will be tying. We will be tying. That's wishful thinking. That Rod will be tying, and I will be watching throughout the next 16 weeks of it is. The hook is a number 2 up-eye salmon. The thread is 3/0 monocord white, 6/0 monocord black. The body is black floss, ribs, oval gold tinsel. The throat is orange hackle. The wing is 2/3 black squirrel tail or bear hair, 1/3 gray squirrel over, and the head is black. Most of our heads have been black. The odd red head, and that's it. Okay, let's do it. Let's go.
Okay, we got a hook in there. I got a two low water, and I guess I use that here because it's a little bit larger and it's easier for viewers to see. So we attach our 3/0 monocord white, and usually we would put our ribs on up here, start our ribs or our tag, but where we only have a body and no tag or anything like that, we just want to put our ribs right in there. And just get it tied in so it stays there. And I'll put a bit of head cement right on the bear shank so that the thread
That's one thing, Rob, that I've had a lot of comments about from people that I've talked to since the show went on the air, is that they say that you use more head cement than anybody they know.
Yeah.
And I guess it leads to a very durable fly.
Definitely. You know, like I've got good techniques, but that lacquer is just extra insurance, right?
And yet it doesn't. You're not using it too excessively that it muddies up your fly.
Yeah, that's right. Now I'll just pull off some thread and just stroke it so it just lays flat, and I'll go back up the body. And nice close turns. Now you see a lot of people, they'll just go up in sloppy turns, like they'll just go right up the body in wide space turns. But what happens there is that those bumps will show through the floss pretty easily. You know, it's pretty well magnified as you tie on your different materials.
So even though you're thinking to yourself, well, nobody's actually going to see this part of the fly, if the surface itself is not smooth, it's going to affect the rest of the body as it gets built up.
That's right. If the underbody's not smooth, then the body can't be smooth. Okay, I've got some floss here. Now, where that's a fairly big hook, I'm going to have to use 2 strands of floss. And I've got to spin it out and whatever, untwist it and unravel it. So that's pretty good. So I got 2 separate strands for now. Okay, we tie those 2 strands in, and we measure it so that the stub ends of the strands are just meeting the return loop. And what we'll do there is we'll tie this heavy thread off.
We finished there?
Yep. And attach our fine thread, the stuff that we're going to use for the head, and tying in the wings and the hackle, you know. Tie it in now because that will reduce the bulk up around the head area. So next we'll put on some, just a bit of clear lacquer just on the underbody, and that will keep the floss and help it adhere to the underbody so it doesn't slip while you're fishing. Okay, nice and flat. You can twist it and untwist it as you're wrapping. Now that's laying fairly nice and flat, so I don't mind now.
We want to keep nice, even tension.
That's right, yeah. Should be firm. If you go too firm, you'll tear the floss up. And as you can see, as I'm wrapping, I'm not using just my 2 fingers. I'm using 2 or 3 fingers. Let it spread it over those 2 or 3 fingers so it really flattens out really well, you know?
Now you're doing, is there any kind of a bobbin or any other tool that would allow you to put your thread on like this and keep the tension even all the time? Or is this would only be done as you're doing it?
Yeah, that's right. Now there should be a slight taper.
In which direction?
Okay, from the back. Okay, that's a little bit of a ridge there I don't like there. I'll just undo that. A slight taper from the rear, slim in the rear, and a little bit thicker in the front, you know?
Okay. So you just close your loops together as you go towards the head?
Yep. You keep wrapping and tapering until you get to the front section, and there you go. 3 or 4 turns to tie that off, and you can clip that out. There we go. Oh. It's a bit contrary today. There you go. And the customary 5 turns of rib material. They should be fairly firm.
As we've pointed out in earlier shows, you always go with 5.
Yeah. Now, I've done it so that on this fly right here that I would only make a couple of turns of very extra fine oval silver or oval gold tinsel right on the tag portion where normally your tag would be, and wouldn't put any ribs in, just the orange throat and the wing, right? And the body, of course, but no ribs. There's a pattern I fool around with a lot, you know? Okay, I'll just lock that in with a couple more turns, and I'll make 1 extra turn and turn the fly over.
Put our hackle in.
Ready for our throat. And we're just going to use a beard style throat, just something very simple. And I'll show you a winging technique now that we never used last year. And it's the same thing as last year. Every week we're going to try something different. Okay, just take off a bunch of hackle on the left. 2 or 3 turns.
from the other side.
And a couple of others for over here. This is called a beard stall throat. It's the simplest one to do, really.
Now, why would you tie that in two sections and not just pull off one lump?
Well, you can't really get the nice spread, you know?
Across?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, you'll note on this fly here, I don't like to have a long throat. A lot of people would like to go back to the hook point or whatever. Anyway, we're not back to the hook point on our other materials anyway, but I like to go over to the mid-rib so that you can see some of the body, you know? Now, for our wing, we're going to use black squirrel. I think on larger flies, it's easier to use black squirrel because it's easier to even up, and it's a little denser.
Now, in our instructions, you said black squirrel or bear hair.
Yep.
Interchangeable? One better than the other, or is it just...
Well, I use the bear hair on smaller flies.
Okay. Is it a finer hair?
It's a little coarser.
It's coarser hair, yeah.
Yeah, coarser. Okay. As last year, what we'll do... Okay, we cut it on a little bit of a taper. As last year, what we'll do is tie the wings in, or tie the wing material in 3 sections. So I go 1, 2. I'll just make an extra turn and just lock that in there. And then I'll put a section of gray squirrel. Take the stubs out.
Even up with your hair stacker?
Even up. You don't even have to use a hair stacker on this one. Measure it.
So you're looking for a 2-to-1 ratio, basically.
That's
from
right.
Your black to your gray.
Yep.
Thus the 2/3, 1/3, 2-to-1.
Right off. And 1 turn to lock that in. So you got 3 bunches of hair, actually.
And it goes on top of the black.
Yep.
Just like that.
And you don't need many wraps to lock that in, you know. Okay, and
Whip
we'll
finish.
just finish it off.
And we're in business.
4, 5, 6. 6 turns. And voila.
And so that's the fly